run my own thing called Little M Media, and with the great generosity of Eve and the folks from the Beacon Lounge, they let me sit up here and ask people questions about the ways that we can change the world and be that much more effective. So joining me today,
no way this could go badly.
No way this could go badly, is Michael Slaby, who had many fancy titles at the Obama campaign, but was one of the chief architects and strategists behind the technology infrastructure and the overall use of technology and data as a core element of the strategy that helped to elect and then re-elect President Obama, and is now one of the founders of a company called Timshell, which is very much in the business of what he would describe as elevating purpose, but essentially changing the way that we approach the relationship between brands and for-purpose organizations and how we solve complex problems, etc. I used to work for Michael. I worked on some things with Michael, so I know enough about Michael for this conversation to be a little uncomfortable and terrified.
I'm really happy this is Sunday morning.
Excellent. Okay, 5 questions for you. So, number one is, I think there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of discussion about the ways that we do prioritize and approach finding solutions to complex problems, how we address the most pressing social and humanitarian issues out there. I would argue, and I think you would agree, what we're doing at present is really not getting to where we want to get to. We're not getting there fast enough. So what is it that needs to change about the approach that we are taking, or that most organizations are taking, towards addressing these complex issues?
I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who cares about doing good who would say we're going fast enough on solving social, complex social and humanitarian problems. Everybody wishes we were solving things faster, I think, and being more efficient and more effective. I think the question becomes how we create a framework that everybody can embrace so that we can do that systematically. An argument I would make is that most nonprofits, I think, still struggle to optimize and articulate success in anything that's not an output. So a lot of, especially small nonprofits, if you ask them how they're doing, will often say, how are things going this year? They'll say, well, we're raising more money than last year. And while I think that keeping the lights on is important, as long as there's still a problem to solve, and we can debate you should be putting yourself at a business theory of how nonprofits should think about their organizations, but thinking more in the context of outcomes and impact, and the idea that running programs and sort of the outputs of bringing people together, building schools, are outputs on the way to something like more children being educated and better livelihood outcomes and changing people's lives in material ways beyond just, we have a tendency to measure our own busyness. And we do that partially because it's easier. And measuring outcomes is complicated because we work in this massively multivariate world where we and a collection of other organizations are all working on a problem collectively, even though we don't collaborate enough. And who gets credit for things changing? It is in some ways this sort of very complicated social good mixed media model attribution problem. But if we worried a little less about credit and a little more about outcomes, I think we'd be in a better starting position.
So we talked briefly on the street the other day, and then I brought it up here actually yesterday in the Beacon Lounge, this construct that you've talked about, think, build, do.
Yeah.
And we very quickly got animated over the fact that we think there are plenty of ideas and solutions out there on paper.
Yes.
Terrific, innovative ideas, but the infrastructure or the systematic approach necessary to bring those to fruition and the actual work, the actual activities are not being done. So, the list is probably too long, but what do you think we need to build or do as a way of taking more of these ideas and paper solutions and actually putting them into practice, right, to see if, frankly, they are right at all?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is just starting to do a lot of what we were talking about. I think over the last 5 years, there has been an increasing sort of